So UFC Fight Night Vegas 29, Korean Zombie versus Ige took place last night. It's now in the rearview mirror. It's time to start looking forwards. This is every fight to make after UFC Vegas 29. I've got all of the key players from that card on the screen right now, and I've got a box next to them that is empty, and it's going to be filled in by their future opponent, who I have hidden around the perimeter of this screen and will slowly place into position as this video goes on. So let's waste no more time and start with the main events. More importantly, the main event's winner of the Korean Zombie. He had a great performance against Dan Ige, really put on a clinic, really showed his veteran experience over a guy like Dan Ige, didn't make any mistakes, constantly took advantage of Dan Ige's mistakes. The Korean Zombie showed that he's still got it and is still a top guy in the featherweight division. I feel like he should take on a man who is not currently ranked in the featherweight division because he was recently removed to go through surgery, and when he comes back, if he does come back, he is going to need a top opponent for a title elimination bout in the featherweight division. I think Zabit Magomedsharipov versus the Korean Zombie would be an amazing fight, an amazing main event of any fight night. You put that in a main event of a fight night in November, I am happy. Number one, because I really want to see Zabit Magomedsharipov go 5 rounds. But number two, that is just an amazing... Just listen to the name of that card. The Korean Zombie versus Zabit Magomedsharipov. If that doesn't make you happy as an MMA fan, I don't know what will. However, there is a problem with this matchup being made. It's a little bit of a... You don't know if this one can be made. It's a little bit of a weird one, in all honesty. Zabit Magomedsharipov is going through surgery to try and fix some of the problems that he's having. It might not go correct. He has really mentioned that there is a chance that there is not going to be a return of Zabit Magomedsharipov. This might be the last time we see him. He might not come back to the sport of MMA. So in that case, if Zabit Magomedsharipov can't come back and we never get to see him again, and the Korean Zombie versus Zabit can't happen, I think Zabit Magomedsharipov should be removed and replaced by Edson Barboza. I think that's an amazing matchup. The Korean Zombie, Edson Barboza. If Zabit can't make it, let's do this one. We all know Edson Barboza beat Dan Ige. We can have a battle of the guys that beat Dan Ige. That would be amazing. And also, I feel like you can't really do an Edson Barboza versus Giga Chikadze. Both guys have kind of earned their shot up the rankings. I think Edson Barboza's just... The amount of time he's been in the UFC, all of the favors, he fought Khabib for the UFC. Edson Barboza, a striking specialist, signed a fight with Khabib because that's how much of a savage he is, okay? I want Edson Barboza to get himself a break. He needs to jump up the rankings. He got robbed by Dan Ige. He got robbed by Paul Felder. He's been robbed so many times recently in his bouts. I feel like now he's got some momentum in the featherweight division, and we know he beat Dan Ige. If they can't do Zabit versus the Korean Zombie, the Korean Zombie versus Edson Barboza will definitely do. Look at that name at the top of the main event of a fight night. Amazing card in November. 5 rounds. I think that could be a fight they make next. I'm going to leave it as Edson Barboza because, of course, there is a bit of a if factor with Zabit Magomedsharipov. But either one of those names will do against Korean Zombie next. But let's move on to the loser of the main event. Dan, 50k Ige. Unfortunate loss for him. Did not look good over the 5 rounds. Kind of got shown levels in MMA, really. Like, oh, this is the top of the sport. I'm not quite ready, or I might never be ready for the top of the sport in the featherweight division, at least. And there's even a level above the Korean Zombies in terms of the Volkanovskis and the Max Holloways. So the featherweight division is like a barrier reef of drop-offs in terms of skill levels. Either way, Dan Ige needs an opponent. He's low down the rankings. I think he'll be ranked around 10 or 11 in the featherweight division. Another guy who is ranked, who's coming off a loss, and also is a man who was signed to fight Dan Ige before earlier this year, is Hurricane Shane Burgos. And the one thing that I like about this matchup is, other than the fact that it's an amazing bout, and I'm an amazing matchmaker for making this, other than that reason, Shane Burgos needs some time off. Dan Ige is going to need some time off. I think they could return both of these guys in November, maybe early December. At the end of this year, I would love to see Dan Ige versus Shane Burgos. 2 young guys. They were supposed to take on each other before, which means they are okay with signing a fight against each other, which is very difficult to get. It's very difficult right now in the sport to get 2 guys to agree to fighting each other. So if they have agreed to fight each other before, I think that just opens the door to make it a bit easier to get the fight made again. Dan Ige versus Shane Burgos is an amazing matchup. I think it should be made next in the featherweight division. The winner of that one needs one more win, and then they can get right back in the mix, looking to jump up those rankings once again. But this is a good bounce back fight for both of them. Dan Ige versus Shane Burgos. Great co-main event of a fight night. Great prelim headliner of a pay-per-view, I would imagine, as well. Great fight. Moving on to the co-main event. Sergey Spivak versus Alexei Oleinik. Great scrap. Spivak ended up getting the job done in rounds 2 and 3, just having a little bit more in the gas tank than Alexei Oleinik, it seemed. Great performance. I don't believe that Sergey Spivak's going to get a real big jump up the rankings, mainly because his performance against Alexei Oleinik wasn't it wasn't like an electrifying performance, and also his post-fight speech didn't display all of his personality that I'm sure he maybe has. And he's not really a big name in the heavyweight division either. So I think Sergey Spivak should take on Blagoy Ivanov in the heavyweight division. He's ranked above him. He hasn't got a fight. Not many people want to fight Blagoy Ivanov anyway, because he's a bit of a tricky matchup. I say do Sergey Spivak versus Blagoy Ivanov at some point in October. Sergey said he wants a quick turnaround. Blagoy hasn't fought in a little bit either. So let's give it a month and then put them both in a training camp. Sergey Spivak versus Blagoy Ivanov. Just to give Spivak that one extra time. With these guys that aren't as big of names, you have to take your time with building them up these rankings. That's a great co-main event of a fight night, I believe, with a solid main event above it. Maybe we can do the Korean Zombie Edson Barboza with Spivak Blagoy Ivanov as the co-main event, and then maybe Dan Ige Shane Burgos as the feature fight, and the entire card is done. I don't care what else is on there. That's an amazing card. Sergey Spivak versus Blagoy Ivanov. Great matchup. Makes sense in the rankings, and Spivak needs a couple more wins to really build up some hype before he gets jumped into the top 5 or top 10. Good win from Sergey Spivak. Him versus Blagoy Ivanov is next. As for the loser, Alexei Oleinik, I did contemplate maybe... I will be honest, I had the Bellator logo cropped out, and I was going to make a joke. But I don't think he's going to retire, and moreover, I don't think the UFC is going to retire him, because he's got an amazing record, he's got decent wins, he's only on a 3-fight losing streak, which is a bad thing, don't get me wrong, but it's not like he's on a 4 or 5, and it's like, oh, okay, now he really has to go. Alexei Oleinik is a decent fighter, he accepts fights, he doesn't look embarrassingly bad out there. I know he's an old man, but he's got a great record, and you're keeping guys around like Maurice Green, I believe, or maybe he's been cut by the UFC, I really hope so. Either way, they're keeping other guys around in these divisions. They're keeping Randa Marcos. They'll keep Alexei Oleinik if he wants to continue, and apparently he does. So I say let's do Alexei Oleinik versus another grappler, and you'll love this matchup. Juan Espino. You want to know why? Juan Espino kind of got done dirty against Alexander Romanov, who faked a groin shot and ended up getting the win because of it. Alexei Oleinik versus Juan Espino. Great grappling match. Good matchup for Alexei Oleinik. Great matchup for Juan Espino as well. Great matchup to make altogether. I think it should be made. Maybe to open up the main card of a fight night. That would be amazing. And also it gives Juan Espino a chance to get right back in the mix and right back up the rankings after he got done dirty by Alexander Romanov. So this is a bit of a reward for Juan Espino. And also a good matchup for Alexei Oleinik in terms of grappling. I'd like to see how that grappling match goes. Alexei Oleinik, Juan Espino, let's make it happen. Moving on to the feature fight. Marlon Vera got a big win against Davy Grant. I think his next opponent should be, and I'm going to be careful here, because he has to beat his next opponent of Lewis Smolka on the main card of the McGregor pay-per-view at 264 in a couple of weeks. Sugar Sean O'Malley. I think Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Marlon Vera 2 is the fight that needs to happen next. I know Marlon Vera called out Dominic Cruz. I don't think they're going to make that fight. Dominic Cruz even said afterwards, I'm looking for a guy up the rankings. I'm not looking behind me. I want to jump up the rankings. Maybe Dominic Cruz is going to look for like the loser of Sandhagen Dillashaw. If it's Dillashaw and Dillashaw gets ranked number 5 or something like that, I'm sure Cruz would want to make that rematch and get himself back up those rankings. Other than that, Marlon Vera just come off a big win. Sean O'Malley, if he beats Lewis Smolka, he will have also come off a big win. And I think they should make that rematch again. Great fight. Feature fight of a pay-per-view, 100%. Maybe in October, maybe in November, maybe even in September, depending on how Sean O'Malley beats Lewis Smolka. If he does, touch wood. Really got to be careful, because I'm jinxing people with these videos. If Sean O'Malley beats Lewis Smolka, I want to see that rematch made. The fan anticipation is there. The memes are there about the fight as well. And I think that fight should be made next. A rematch is good. 2 fights removed from each other. Great stuff. Let's make it again. There's bad blood. The winner of that one's going to be a massive star in the Bantamweight division. And then we'll jump them straight into maybe just outside the top 5 against a number 6 or number 7 or number 8. Great matchup to make. Marlon Vera versus Sean O'Malley too. Of course, fingers crossed, Sean O'Malley beats Lewis Smolka. Because it's MMA and you never know. Moving on to the loser of the feature fight. Davy Grant had a great performance against Marlon Vera. Actually looked really good in the first round. Started to slow down. I feel like he threw too many crazy kicks and it kind of affected his cardio a little bit. Not a great loss, to be honest with you. Took a real beating in that third round, so he's going to need some time off. And I think he should take on a man by the name of... Who the fuck is... Oh, Hunter Azure. Sorry. Oh my god, I almost forgot who it was. Hunter Azure is the guy's name. He just lost a decision to Jack Shaw. He's a younger guy. He's going to want some time off to build his skills and get back in there. And I think you could do him versus Davy Grant. It's a great matchup. A fun scrap as well. Both guys like to throw down on the feet. Both guys have got decent enough grappling. I think it'd be a great fight to open up the main card of a fight night. Davy Grant. Hunter Azure is his name. Good matchup. Both guys coming off losses. Both guys around a similar area in the rankings on the unranked area of the Bantamweight division. I think that could be made next in maybe November, December at the end of the year. Davy Grant, Hunter Azure. Moving on. Chaos Williams scored a really impressive win over Matthew Semmelsberger. Showed some technical flaws in his game, but oh well, he got a win over Matthew Semmelsberger. He must be doing something right. I think his next opponent should be... I know they mentioned ranked opponents. Shut the fuck up. He just snapped his loss and got back in the win column. I need you to be on at least a 2-fight winning streak before I jump you into the top 15. Other than that, Chaos Williams versus another man who recently snapped a loss, Randy Brown. Both guys coming off 1 win. Both guys right next to each other in the rankings, outside the rankings. I think they make that fight. Maybe the feature fight of a fight night at some point. Great scrap to make. Randy Brown coming off a big win against Alex Oliveira by submission in the first round. Chaos Williams coming off a big win against Matthew Semmelsberger. The winner of that one will be on a 2-fight winning streak. And then the winner of that one will then go on to maybe get a guy ranked number 14, 15 in the welterweight division. I think that fight needs to be made first. And then we'll figure out where they're going to jump up the rankings. Other than that, though, another guy who had a great win on the card, on the main card, Sung Woo Choi. The Korean superstar just got an amazing win over Julian Erosa in the first round, flattened him out, put him down. Great win by Sung Woo Choi. I'd say the best performance of his career. I think one more fight is needed before we start talking about him versus ranked opponents. I know he's on a 3-fight winning streak right now, but he did have those early losses in his career that are going to hold him back a little bit. I need one more win, and then we'll talk about ranked opponents. Sung Woo Choi versus a man by the name of... Ariel Hawani? Jared Gordon. God, I made this yesterday. Jared Gordon, I believe, is who it should be. Sung Woo Choi, Jared Gordon. Jared Gordon on a win streak right now in the featherweight division. Just beat Danny Chavez. Had a win before that as well. I know he missed weight for the featherweight division last time, which wasn't a good look. But either way, he's on a 2-fight win streak. He's high up the rankings. I believe he's in the top 25, barely, in the featherweight division. Sung Woo Choi versus him. Grappler versus striker. Let's see if Sung Woo Choi can deal with a good grappler before we chuck him into the top of the rankings. I think that fight needs to be made first before we move ahead. But great scrap. Sung Woo Choi, Jared Gordon, make it happen. Moving on to Matt Brown, the last man on this list. I know a lot of people would want to see the name Nick Diaz pulled away from the side of the screen. I don't think any of those big fights are going to happen for Matt Brown because I'll be honest with you, he just beat Diego Lima. And don't get me wrong, I picked Diego Lima, but it's still Diego Lima. He's not that good. You know what I'm saying? And he's still now on a 1-fight win streak. I don't think we can give him a ranked opponent. I know he wants a good ranked opponent that isn't maybe in the top 15. So he definitely is going to want to look forward in his career. I just don't see him getting a fight with Nick Diaz. I really don't. I think they're going to do Nick Diaz versus a ranked guy in the division. Maybe Robbie Lawler or something if they aren't going to go for a ranked opponent. Matt Brown versus Alex Morono would be a great scrap. I've just ruined everything. Good stuff. Matt Brown versus Alex Morono. Great fight to make. And I think it's a good one. I think it really is. Alex Morono coming off a big win against Donald Cerrone, another veteran. Matt Brown versus Alex Morono. Feature fight of a fight night. make the fight happen, or shut the fuck up. That's all the fights that need to take place after UFC Vegas 29, Korean Zombie versus Ige. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe. Click that button wherever it is on the fucking screen. Toodle pip. I'll see you later.